My name is Benson Hoagland with Opto22, and we're broadcasting live from our headquarters in Temecula, California. So we're often asked to define what groov is. So in a nutshell, it's a simple and easy method for building and viewing operator interfaces suitable for use, virtually any device of any screen size at any time or place. It's really a solution for mobile monitoring and control. But as importantly, it's simple and fun to use. And how many automation products can make that claim? Well, we'll let you be the judge at the end of this webinar. All right, so taking a closer look, groov really changes how you think about traditional HMIs. It's not an HMI just to replace the one that you currently are using, but meant to augment what you're currently doing. So it's a web app, it is an HMI or an operator interface product. It's also a development tool served up as an appliance. It's got a web server in it. Well, how about, is it an epic new way to do mobile apps? Well, many of our customers that are using groov, and even the press, seem to think so, and we put many of their comments on our groov.com website. So check them out, but of course, wait till after the webinar. So the answer is yes, all of the above. Really, the best way to get a feel for groov is to quickly do a demo of an application for you. This project was developed for a boat builder, McKenna Yachts, based out of Newport Beach, California. Here you see images, live video, control buttons, all things to interact with the yacht. And scrolling down here, you'll see some other information relative to water and holding tanks and fuel. And I just turned the monitor on to start bringing back some of that data with the control button. But let me show you kind of how this works. There's a button here, it's a control button, and it's called Blinds Up. And then down here on the lower left-hand corner, we see a live video feed. So when I click the blinds up, keep an eye down here on this video feed, and you can see that indeed the control command to blinds up surely works. So there you go. Let's click blinds down. Very simple, big buttons designed for both this browser and also for touchscreens. So there's a clear example of how that works. But where this product gets really exciting is something I'm about to show you now. Take a look at this. This is my browser. I'm going to move it around on the screen a little bit just so you can kind of see it's just a standard windowed browser in a Windows platform. And I happen to be using Chrome, my favorite browser. I'm going to grab the browser at the bottom corner here where I get the little resize icon and watch this. Voila. As I shrink or expand my browser, everything gets resized gracefully. Everything scales. The gadgets scale, the images scale, the buttons scale, even the live video scales. All scrolling is still there as well. This is extraordinary. There's no product on the market that does anything like this. And note, I have no plugins whatsoever of any kind. No Silverlight, no Flash, no Java. This is all pure HTML and CSS. Standard technologies capable of use in any modern web browser. So if you're using a 16:9 display, or maybe you have one of the older 4:3 displays, or maybe you're using a tablet in the vertical orientation, whatever it is, whatever device you have, everything completely scales. Pretty extraordinary. So let's take a look. I can click up here on the Pages icon and come down to my power screen. And here I can see at a glance that everything appears to be okay. Now, one of the other things that's interesting about this application, this boat is actually in a dock, and it's not tethered to the internet. So what I'm doing is I'm navigating across these pages and I'm pulling data from the boat. I'm doing all that over a 4G radio. It happens to be a Verizon USB radio plugged into a small little router that's on the boat. So that's, I think, a testament to the performance that you're going to get out of groov, even over a radio connection. Okay. Let's move on. So I'm going to close this browser window here. All right, so why does groov matter? What do we need groov for? Well, the problem is that today's solutions are they're difficult, they're expensive, they're of course time and labor intensive. Virtually everyone on the market, at least everyone that I've seen, absolutely require browser plugins of some kind. That makes them very inflexible. And then when you want to move over to mobile devices, such as iPad or Galaxy Tab or whatever, it doesn't work because they tend to be very platform dependent. So you'll have one solution that only works on iOS, which is the Apple operating system. Another solution only works on Android. So, really it ends up being a half-baked solution. For example, we have a product called Pack Display. It's an HMI, a Windows HMI, that we've had for 20 years. And we could have taken that and tried to shoehorn it into a mobile application. But it just didn't make sense. It was going to result in way too many compromises, and some of those are listed here. So we thought the best approach would be to start from the ground up. Well, if you try to use one of the solutions off the shelf that you can get from various automation vendors today, naturally what we just discussed is that's not going to be a very easy thing to do. But you could roll your own. You could absolutely do this all on your own. And I know from personal experience because I did. I started off with a little bit of HTML that's up on the screen now. And this is for an application I did at my house where I have my sprinklers and spa running. Well, then before I knew it, I had to start learning JavaScript. But I didn't really have time to learn JavaScript in depth, so I had to seek out some help. And I got some help from an automation programmer who's big into Opto22 from Australia, a guy named Nick. So he helped me out with some JavaScript. Next thing you know, I realized I got to get data into a database. So I had to start learning PHP. And then I turned to my buddy Ben, who had some PHP experience, also helped me put a MySQL database together. And then I started having to put pack control code together to make all these things work. Well, at the end of the day, what that really means is there's a lot of technology that you have to learn. Either you have to learn it all on your own, or you have to try to seek out the people that will help you put this together. So what kind of people are those? Typically, you're going to have somebody with some web development experience. Somebody that knows a little bit about SQL, knows a little bit about CSS, JavaScript, and so on. Then you're going to need an IT guy, somebody who's going to be able to bring up a server for you, get a web server software up and running for you, configure Apache or whatever web server software you use, and also set up things like HDTPS for security and so on. And then you got your controls engineer. They understand tags and runtimes and user licenses and all these things. Well, that's a lot of technology, that's a lot of different domain expertise that's required to do a roll your own solution. So we think that that's a crazy way to go. I know from experience, even a simple little change or trying to debug an error just took too long. So it really wasn't the right solution. So we thought the right solution would be, how do we take all of this domain expertise and this acronym soup of technology and combine it all together into one product? And that's what we did. And that's Groov. So once we've got all this packaged into Groov, obviously you're going to need a tool to start developing screens and to start viewing your applications that you've built. Well, what do you need to do that? You need two things: a modern web browser and a network connection. That's it. Any modern web browser, which includes Safari, Firefox, Chrome, and IE10, all have the capabilities required to make Groov work. And that is HTML5, caching, CSS, and even SVG support. And then once you build your applications, you can view them on any number of devices: computers, tablets, and smartphones. So taking a little deeper dive in that, look at computers. No longer are you tied only to a Windows platform. I can use a Mac. I can use Linux. I can use any computer with a modern web browser. And then when I come over to tablets, same thing. I can use Android, Microsoft tablets, iPads. And just to put that in perspective, if you ever looked at the number of screen sizes available just for Android devices, they number in the hundreds. And that's why that scalability and our use of SVG and resizing is so important. Because then it doesn't matter which device you get, whether it's a product that's on the market today or a product that will come out tomorrow. Groov will just work on those. And the same with the iPhones and Galaxies and Samsung phones and so on, or whether it's a smartphone or even a phablet somewhere between a phone and a tablet. Anything with a modern web browser will work. And just as it scales very small down to a smartphone, it also scales very large to a large screen TV. Samsung currently offers a Samsung Smart TV. And guess what it has? The two things that Groov needs: a network connection built in and a modern web browser. So suddenly you can start using HDTVs if you wish on your plant floor or up above a manufacturing line for key performance indicator data or whatever you choose. So how does it work? Pretty straightforward. We call it 5 minutes to groove. I encourage you to go to a groov.com website and check out our 5 minutes to groove video, where we actually start from 0 and go to 5 minutes and create an entire project, including even plugging in the Groove box. So you apply power or install the Groove server for Windows, log in with your web browser, add your controllers, create your pages, drag and drop gadgets onto the canvas, save, and that's it. You start sharing using the URL of the Groove server or Groove box. That's 5 minutes to groove. So what's the architecture look like? Well, quite simply, you place Groove in your plant or facility, or it could be in a server room somewhere, or even on a machine. So if you're an OEM machine builder, that might be a way to apply Groove in your architecture. You connect one network interface to your control network and the other to the IT network. And then what you end up with is a segmented network where the control network and the IT network are completely separate. Then you log in, start building screens, and then view your screens on PCs, tablets, or smartphones. And what's important here is when you're communicating over the IT network to the Groove box or to Groove server on Windows, you're doing everything via SSL. SSL is Secure Sockets Layer. It's the same technology you use when you log into your bank. So everything, all communications to Groove, to the Groove app, regardless of where it's running, is over SSL communications. So it's very, very secure, and we've thought of all of that right from the get-go. Now, what if you want internet access to your Groove box? Like I just showed you, the McKenna yacht, I did access that over the internet. So what are the best methods to do that? VPN is absolutely the best method. The good news there is that almost all mobile devices and computers have VPN clients built into them. So with a VPN server at the location, or whatever it may, whether it's a remote location or within a plant, getting on a VPN and then connecting to Groove is by far the best method. But a second good option is port forwarding, just going through a traditional router. And port forwarding only one port, and that is 443, which is the secure port. We don't recommend connecting the Groove box or Groove server directly to the internet without the use of a firewall and other technologies. The Groove box and Groove server for Windows are not firewalls, and they're not intended to be internet facing. Okay, so what about compatibility? What does Groove work with? Okay, so Groove currently in version 1 works with SnapPack systems. So for the half of you that answered the question you're using SnapPack systems, you can start using Groove today. SnapPack S series and R series controllers are supported with firmware version 9.2 or better. SoftPack is also supported, and SoftPack is our control engine that runs on a Windows platform. But you may have some other products that talk other protocols, industrial automation protocols like Ethernet IP, Modbus TCP, BACnet, and so on. Well, the good news is our packs all communicate those protocols. So you could use those packs as a gateway to the Groove box. So we'll simply gather the information with the pack and send it up to the Groove box for display. We also have an AB solution that's specific to Allen Bradley Logic Systems. I'll get into that in the next slide. But what's most exciting is what's coming this fall. OPC UA support. OPC UA, or Unified Architecture, has been around for decades. In fact, Opto22 was one of the 5 companies that created OPC, the specification, back in 1995. This technology will allow Groove to work with any automation or building control system that offers an OPC UA server. That's huge. That's going to be very big. But in the meantime, if you are an Allen Bradley Logic user, we have several customers that are doing this. They use a SnapPack as a bridge, and we developed a pre-configured strategy. The controllers are all Ethernet IP based. Our controllers they're native Ethernet IP. So then you can act as a gateway or bridge between your Groove and your Logic systems. So that really works out well as well. Okay, so what are the components? What are the pieces and parts of Groove? Real quickly, the first one is the Groove app, and this includes Groove View and Groove Build. Then we have an optional Groove View for mobile devices, and it is optional. You can use the browsers on your devices, but we also developed a custom application for those as well, and I'll step into that in just a moment. And then Groov platforms. This is where you run Groov. Let's first take a look at Groov View. Here it is. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple, same as what we saw over with the McKenna yacht. A very simple and clean interface. And then there's two ways to navigate throughout your Groov application from view mode, and that is your pages and categories of pages, and of course your way to log in and log out. Now this is the view that most people will use and the only view they can get to based on their authentication or what their credentials allow them to do. So there's view and kiosk mode, and then there's also operator and admin mode, and they have access to this screen. This is Groov Build. This is your development environment. No extra software, no downloads, no plugins. That means you can develop from virtually any computer as long as it's using a web browser. So let's take a quick tour. On the bottom right-hand corner, you have your gadget palette and also where your tag palette is. So these are the various gadgets that are supported with version 1 of Groov. In the top right corner, you have gadget properties. Now these properties are associated with each gadget as it might be selected. In this case, the radial gauge that's just off to the left, this is the gadget properties for that. So you can set limits, you can set min and max values, colors, zones, all kinds of stuff. And of course those vary depending on the gadget you have selected. Then you have the pages. This is where you create your categories of pages and the page names themselves. And then finally you have a tag chooser. This is where you simply bring up which controllers are configured within Groov, and it presents all the tags for you. No re-entering of tags or anything like that. They're all accessible as soon as you configure the controller. So what kind of items can I view with Groov? Well, there's a lot of different Groov gadgets. Some of them are page objects that just allow you to lay out the page in a pleasant way. So you can group certain things together, you can put in dividers, you can add images, and remember images are all scalable as well. Then you have data objects, LEDs, checkboxes, gauges, and so on. These are gadgets that get data from the control system and present them in the Groov interface. And then you have control objects as well, buttons, sliders, text, and so on. And I'll be showing you a live demo of all of these things coming up in just a moment. Real quickly, Groov View for iOS and Android. As I mentioned, you can use your browser on your mobile device if you like. You don't need these products. But if you have them, your screens are going to look more like what you see on the slide now. Notice there's no forward and back button, no favorites button, no URL bar. So in essence, what we do is simply containerize the Groov app, which is a browser in itself, and make it a very clean and native looking interface. But there's one other reason why this might make sense. On Apple devices today, and I'm sure coming with Android devices in the very near future, is something called kiosk mode, and this is very cool. If you've ever been in an Apple store, you'll see your MacBooks and your iPads and your iPhones laid out on a table, and right next to each product is an iPad, and that iPad is used to view the technical specifications, the pricing, comparisons, and so on. But you'll notice that if you try to press the button on those iPads, nothing happens because they're in what's called kiosk mode. So the Apple devices support this kiosk mode, and it is supported with Groov. What it means is that when you load up the Groov app, put it in kiosk mode, the only thing that tablet or smartphone or iPod Touch can be used for is the Groov app. So imagine the possibilities. Now you might be able to use something like one of these devices with Gorilla Glass, built-in networking, and low power as an operator interface to machines, to the plant floor, to whatever. Even Hoffman Enclosures, which we all know is one of the leading enclosure manufacturers, they've even started developing enclosures for iPads just for this purpose. Then, where are you going to run Groov? You have two choices. The first one is the Groov box. Now, this is a completely self-contained appliance. It's got the Groov app inside. It's ready to go. It's literally as plug and play as you can get. It includes 2 Ethernet ports and a wireless LAN on it. That's allowing you to segment your control network from your IT network, and it's just ready to go. Apply power, 14 to 32 volts DC, and log in and start building your pages. The second option has just been announced today. now you can run Groov on your Windows machine as well. Now this might be a choice for OEM machine builders who already have a PC in their machines. In some other cases, there's some IT departments we've seen that prefer to use software rather than another hardware piece on their network. So they already have a server farm, they're maybe virtualizing Windows. Groov works within a VM on a Windows box. In fact, it's supported by these 4 platforms, Windows 7 and 8 Professional and Windows Server. Now that product is announced today and will be available to download on July 22nd. Okay, quickly about performance. I talked a little bit about it with the McKenna Yacht application. And this is what makes also the Groov product so unique. We've all been in a situation where we're on our mobile device and maybe we're browsing Amazon or browsing the New York Times or whatever. And every time we hit a link, that's a return trip to the server, which brings back all the data for that page. Well, if you're on a slower connection, 3G or even 2G, that can be, that can take some time and have a fair amount of delay. Well, Groov works entirely different. The way Groov works is when you hit the Groov box or Groov server for Windows the first time, it literally pulls the entire application up into your browser. And we're able to do this because new browsers support caching. So we actually cache the entire application into your browser. This makes page navigation and object rendering super fast, like a native application. It doesn't have to go back and reload everything. So then the only data transfer occurring is the live data to update all your values. So that's a very important aspect relative to performance, particularly when you're talking about mobile devices. So you're going to have a almost native experience, a native app experience with Groov. Now the other nice thing about that is if Groov is updated by an admin or by an editor who changed a page or whatever, a simple refresh of the Groov app will go and pull the latest changes and load them into your browser. So suddenly managing a number of devices becomes very easy. And one more thing before we get to pricing is about how we built Groov. Now we could have done a number of different directions here, including just taking existing screens and trying to paste them in, but it didn't really make sense. We found out about this book called the High Performance HMI Handbook, and our engineers read it from cover to cover before they started writing a line of code relative to the user interface, and it just made tons of sense. Like we saw on the boat, and like I see on this graphic here, at a glance I can see a lot of information and know that everything is within range. So everything there is relatively in the green. And then I can take a deeper dive look by seeing the actual values above and so on. So there's a lot of clarity, consistency, a lot of use of analog, subdued colors. This really makes a lot of sense. And we've put a white paper on our website that really talks about this new way of building HMIs that are very effective, are much easier for the operators to discern what's going on, and overall just much, much higher performance. So Groov is built from the ground up based on these principles. All right, so probably the slide you've been waiting for. Pricing. How much does Groov cost? $1 million. No, of course that's not true. The Groov box, which includes the Groov app and the Groov box and 1 year of maintenance, is $1,995 US list price. Very, very affordable product. No user licenses, no limit on tags, no limit on controllers. $19.95. If you choose to use Groov Server for Windows and bring your own hardware, it's $17.95, and that includes 1 year of maintenance. On that particular application, you're going to need to have a Windows server, and you're going to need to install it and set up your port forwards and your SSL certificates. But it's not too difficult to do, and that's Groov Server for Windows. And then we have optional maintenance program for $199. Now, I want to mention that the maintenance is optional. If you don't renew your maintenance, your Groov box or Groov server will not stop working. It will continue to work. You just wouldn't be eligible for updates and support. But still, a very affordable price for the service program. Okay, it's demo time. So I'm going to show you how Groov works. Now, for me, I'm going to actually demonstrate this using my own home. So I'm going to go to HTTPS / and home.hoagland.org. And there it is. And notice when I log into Groov, the first thing it does is gives me a site security certificate. Well, I haven't paid the $300 or whatever to get an SSL certificate at my house because I know I'm talking to my own box. So there it is. Comes up to the screen. Now, based on how I log in is what I'm going to see once I get into the Groov app. If I log in as an administrator, which I'm going to do, then I'm going to see Groov build. If I log in as an operator, then I wouldn't see Groov build and only the Groov view screens. Okay, so here we are. This is my home. We're in Southern California. It's already 80 degrees outside. I can see what my real-time energy is here. This is kind of an overview screen. So I've built this kind of adhering to high-performance HMI standards as well. So just a quick overview of what's going on at the house. I can go and view my cameras. So I have, and these are very low-cost cameras, ranging from $69 to $139. And the top two ones are HD cameras. And remember, as I said before, completely scalable. Okay. So let me go down to my spa. I'll go down here to spa maintenance. And there's my spa, and I can determine how long I want to cycle the spa and change the valve positions and so on. Let me just go ahead and manually cycle the spa here, and we should see that thing start kicking up. Yep, there it goes. Pretty soon you should start seeing some bubbles where the water is circulating, and I can see down here on the lower right-hand side that spike in energy as the spa pump cavitates the water through and then starts to mellow off. So I can see everything that's going on with my spa right from this screen. Let's turn it off to make sure I don't use too much energy. Now what I want to show you is how to build these kinds of screens, and it's really, really simple. So the first thing I'm going to do is go over here and select Groov Build, and again, because I'm logged in as admin, I can get to this screen, and here we go. So I've got these various panes here. I can resize them as I need. I've got my gadget properties and so on. Let's come down here to my sandbox, and something I have here is called Play, my Play page. And notice here I have two screens, my desktop and tablet and my handheld screen. So because handheld devices typically work better in a vertical orientation, we actually give you both. Now first, the first thing you need to do is configure your controller. I have 3 controllers configured here. To add one, I simply click Add Controller, put in the IP address, the port, which is the standard port for the SnapPack system, and then I simply browse to where my strategy file is and click Import. Pulls in all my tags. I'm all ready to go. So let's take a look at the first way of adding a tag. Here I clicked on my sprinklers controller, and I'm going to go to Digital Outputs and select Valve 1. Now when I do that, I'm presented with the gadgets that are supported by a digital output. So now all I need to do is click and drag. Boom. Just like that. I might resize it. I can resize it this way. I can resize it this way. So it's all completely scalable, and it kind of fits to a grid, so it makes it easy to line things up. So I'm going to put here Zone 1, and I can change the colors. I can go to, say, my false color is there, and I'm done. Let's see how it works. File, save all changes, and switch to Groov View. Boom. There we go. Let's see if it works. Click. Hey, there we go. And the sprinklers are on. Pretty simple, huh? It is really that simple. Okay, let's turn off the sprinklers. Let's go back to Groov Build, and I'll show you a couple of other things really quickly. First, I'm going to go over and apply a gadget to the screen in a different way. I'm going to click on the gadget first. So I'm going to come here to a horizontal slider and drag it right up here under Zone 1. There we go. And I'm going to resize that one as well. And notice how there's a little red thing here. It says no tag. That basically says the gadget does not have a tag associated with it currently. So we're going to fix that. We'll come right up here to the gadget properties and click None Selected. Okay. When I click it, there's my tag chooser. So this is the other way that you can get into assigning tags to gadgets. Here I'm going to go to Spa Control, Heater Set Point, and I'm done. Now I'll give it a label, and I'll go spa. Let's see if I can type. Spa temp. I can give it a minimum value of, let's say, 40, max value of 120, and I only need precision to 1 character. Now I can also set up any of these control tags to be to require a confirmation. So in the event it was inadvertently clicked or touched with the touch screen, automatically it'll come up with a dialog that says, hey, are you sure you want to do this? Okay, and that's it. Now I'm going to do one other little thing here. Let's pull in an image, click and drag, and when I do so, I simply go to my hard drive and select an image. Let's pull in this guy right here. And this uploads the image to the Groov server. So there it is. Again, completely resizable. All right, so I'm done. I've laid out some more gadgets on my screen. I've got some IP video here, and that's just brought in through a URL. I'm all set. But what about the handheld view? Well, let me show you. I'm going to go over here to handheld, and look, it built my screen for me. But you know what? I really would prefer to have this button up here like that. And let's move it down a little bit. And that spa temp is a little tight for a mobile, so let's make it a little bit bigger. Let's even make it a little bit bigger this way. Yeah, like that. And center the groove. Now watch. When I go back to desktop tablet, nothing changed. So now it allows me to build my interfaces for both. So now I'm in a file, save all changes, and switch to Groov View. There I am. There's my screen. Because I'm on a browser, the Groov box recognizes that I'm hitting it from a browser, so it serves up the proper screen. But let me show you this. Here's my iPhone. So I'm going to go to Groov, and I'm already logged in on this guy, so I'm just going to go to refresh Groov View. It says Groov is loading. It recognized those changes on that page. Let's go take a look. Voila, there it is. So now I'm on my handheld device and my browser. Let's use the handheld device. I'm going to touch zone 1, turn on my sprinklers, and of course you see it update over on the browser side as well. So how quick can you build a mobile interface to a control system? I just did it.